Aloha, I am Taisei of Taisei Discovers. I got my brother Kenji in production from Kenji Walks. Together, we are BrotherLee Time. All right, our next guest was raised in upcountry Maui and elected as one of Hawaii's youngest lawmakers to the House of Representatives in 2012. Re-elected and served until 2018, a contrasting position as a native Hawaiian and a United States politician. As a seventh-generation Kanaka, Kaniela Ing has built his life around courage and conviction. From the state capitol to the national stage, he's becoming a leading voice for Native Hawaiian rights and working families, always carrying the spirit of Hawaii into every fight for a better future. Welcome to BrotherLee Time, Kaniela Ing, my brother.
Hey, aloha kakayaka.
Yes,
yeah, thanks. Great to be with here with you, Taisei, and it's great to meet you, Kenji.
Yeah, you know, I initially reached out to you because over the years I've seen you stand tall in your beliefs. You stand for Native rights, and it's something that a lot of times in a U.S. occupied state is met with a lot of opposition. Correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think especially as I get older, I might change a little bit of my tune. People that know me back then a little bit different. Of I bet the business on every move, yeah. Mm-hmm. But it's always like if whatever you're doing could be done, like someone else would be in a position to do the same thing. Like, what's the point? Like, you got to bring your authentic self. And for me, that's like ku'e. Standing up for what you believe. That's in our tradition as Native Hawaiians. It's ime ike, making sure that you're like backing up with knowledge and you're always seeking to learn more. And aloha. So, like, at a certain point, you just gotta know who you are. And for me, that's what it is. Everything I do is to unite working people.
Mm-hmm. And that evolves as you get older, like you said, right? That feisty 19, 22-year-old with all the experience that you've had definitely built who you are today, right?
Yeah, you gotta, you start off innocence, move to naivety, and then you become skeptical, mm-hmm. and then you got to stop there and not go into cynicism. I think that's like the challenge right now is like being skeptical, questioning the system, but also like having hope and positivity. Yeah, so that's where I'm at right now, and it's just always a fight every day to balance that out.
Okay, there's nothing like an articulate and educated Native Hawaiian that is fighting for Indigenous rights. So I got a lot of respect for you. So I just want to start off by saying, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling all right. Woke up early. Had to drop off the kids from Ewa to Nanakuli. They're in immersion school. There's no immersion in Ewa. So, up bright and early. Had some meetings and, feeling good.
So what made you enroll your kids? Because I know at one point there were, one was going to Ewa Elementary, right? And then now in an immersion school. Why'd you make that choice?
I think for them, it was important to kind of feel both, knowing what it is to be part of the general population, and then also knowing what it is to like be in the culture full time. Mm-hmm. And thankfully, my kids weren't struggling in school. And the older one is ridiculous. He's 9 years old. He reads at 11th grade level. He's just like a brainiac. So we're like, what, if he's gonna be like that, like he might as well get challenged and do something that like he really has to work towards. And being, he tried to do Pono Leo. The commitment was hard for a family at the time. Mm-hmm. We were too busy. So then he went to public school, and now it's like, okay, you're in 4th grade now. If you can learn the language now, that's going to be impressive. So, make sure they're challenged, but also like in the culture.
Can you touch on a little bit of the curriculum of that immersion school?
Yeah, so they're actually going to Nanakuli Elementary and not the one across the street that everybody knows, the charter school. And they're both great. And if they just never have spots, so like, hey, might as well just go to public school, support them. And but it's the same DOE curriculum as everybody else, mm-hmm. but it's pretty much all in Olelo Hawaii.
Oh wow! Yeah. So you speak at home too?
Small kind. I think it's good for me because I did all the classes in college and stuff, mm-hmm. but I never have time to practice. So my level is probably like at an elementary kid's level. Mm-hmm. So I can talk, but it's not like, I'm not going to be like rapping with Kohokai and, doing the stuff on the set of Chief of War, for example.
Yeah. Were you on Chief of War?
Nah, I was.
Oh, I wouldn't have been
Seems like
surprised.
something I do. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, real quick, how are you enjoying the series?
It's good, bro. A lot of people are asking me from the continent, like, is it okay to watch Chief of War? Like, is this accurate? I'm like, first of all, you don't need my permission. I'm not your father or whatever. But if you're asking if it's accurate and respectful, I don't think there's been anything even close to this level. Like, nothing's going to be perfect in terms of like the storytelling and stuff. But to go to Blue Hawaii, where you have a bunch of Hawaiians dancing around Elvis, and he's the star of the show, and he's like trying to pick up the wahine, to Descendants, where George Clooney is somehow Hawaiian, to this, like, yeah, bro. I mean, things that our generation really pushed Hollywood to do better, and I think this is a culmination of all of that. And to Jason Momoa directly, you got to stick your neck out to like raise the funds for this, to get everyone on board, pitch it, and try to make it successful enough where it's worth doing again. Yeah, like that's not easy, bro. And I think it's a good example, really rare. So it's a good example of someone like trying to rise with the Lāhui and not from it. Like bring the whole crew with them. And, you know, again, no one's perfect. I'm sure people can criticize whoever, but like you got to give them props for that one.
Yeah, I agree. And I people have been picking that thing apart, but I think the overall consensus has been that it has been good for the culture and good for awareness. It is entertainment based upon, you know, things that actually happen, but I know the timeline and some of the characters that maybe weren't in it, you know, there's a lot of people, but people are always going to talk. And I think overall it is a respectable effort at portraying what things were really like, especially when it comes to the warrior culture, the other side of the aloha spirit.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way Hawaiians were shown and depicted in worldwide media has been very feminized in like an anti-woman way. Like, you know, women are the objects and Hawaii is the object. It's a place you go to play. And there's a whole other side to our culture. Yeah. Not to say we should like sexualize and glamorize violence and men, but like, you know, it's nuance. And I think the show actually does depict that, like the way they talk about Kahumanu and like the power that she had, even the soft power, the solidarity with people when he goes to the Philippines and he's like, oh, this is how these people treat. And the lesson when Kaiana goes back and then, you know, Kamehameha was like, hey, they did nothing bad to us. Yeah. And he's like, you don't understand what they're capable of when given the chance. Absolutely. And then the scene, not to be spoiler alert, but the scene with the nails and the cannons. And it's like, what can we learn from that today when we're dealing with, you know, like, you know, certain landowners here, the military occupation, like, it's not just what they do to us. It's like, look elsewhere. Look what they did to the Philippines, to Guam, to Puerto Rico, and then orient our strategy around that.
I love the relationship. Okay, so Kaniela, you are the first political leader on BrotherLee Time, and not only are you qualified, but it has been your duty to have a position on critical matters. Kamehameha Schools was actually founded as an English-only school to help train Hawaiian keiki to survive in an unfair world. Once embraced by colonialism, and it has evolved into fear, is what it seems, as Kamehameha Schools is now empowering Hawaiians and reminding Kanaka where they are from and how things came to be. As a voice of Native Hawaiian rights, Kamehameha Schools is going through some admissions troubles. And the U.S. Supreme Court, I think, ultimately will make the final decision. What is your position on this?
Yeah, I think the U.S. Supreme Court has too much power, one. But Kamehameha Schools is one of the things that our ali'i left us with. Unlike most Western kingdoms, where the family just keeps the wealth in their family, passes it on, 20 generations later, you have some random person with a castle. That's not what our ali'i did, right? Luna Lilo Trust, you have the Queen, Kapiolani, like the health, you have the retirement, you have Lulu Kalani Trust for kids, and you have the school. They just gave it to the people for all the things we needed. And that's really rare. So regardless of what folks think about the admissions policy, should be based on race, culture, whatever, like this is something that comes from even before overthrow, right? Like law to splinter paddle, all these things, like just don't touch it. Just let us be. It's a matter of self-determination. So that's where I'm coming from. I think that's where I don't care if you support America, statehood, independence. Like, you should be united. That like, just let us do our thing. You know, like this was here before y'all are even here. So, you know, in that spirit, we gotta protect it. And the Supreme Court right now at the U.S. level is more powerful than Congress. It's more powerful than the president, one would argue. And that's not democracy. None of these guys are elected. They on endless terms. It's like a forever appointment. They can take bribes and stuff in ways that members of Congress could never. And they just sit there for life until they die. Some are like in their 80s and not even thinking like they used to. And that's just not the way a good political system should work. So the fact that it's like resting in the hands of these federal judges is just heaven in so many ways.
Damn. So has your native Hawaiian heritage ever put you in conflict with politics or policy? And how did that shape your decisions?
Yeah, so I was elected young, and I'm from Maui. And, you know, I come from the working class, conservative background, Christian family. But what happened was my dad, he was a union waiter. And then he was like, bro, I need financial freedom for my family. He was making good money, but he wanted to like really set us up. So he got into like selling insurance, and he crushed it. Like, he had this huge team of Hawaiians that like, you know, but he wasn't making any money. Because unlike the Howleys that did that, you build a whole team and that's a lot of money because there's money in the community. So he's like, bro, I just can't make it work. He didn't have insurance. So anyways, he gets a brain aneurysm, doesn't get caught, and then he passed away when he's like 39, like just a few years older than me.
Wow.
So that's the kind of stuff that like shaped my views, right? It's not just being Hawaiian. It's like coming from that background, and like we needed help from the church. We needed help from government. And like all those programs are under threat today. So back to the question, like I get elected from that background, kind of rare. Like most folks, you know, have dads and stuff that were in politics, that kind of thing. And I did it by just knocking on doors, like a ton of doors. So it's not, it's like kind of a fluke in some ways. Like there was no like path that's supposed to get me there. So Joe Suki, he was Speaker of the House at the time. He was in Maui. He's like a staple for many generations, older guy. He's like, you're gonna be the next thing, you know, like I'm gonna groom you to like rise. But time and time again, this Democratic Party kept being on the opposite side of issues. Like they wanted the streams of Maui to be diverted for sole corporate use, you know, Alexander Bolton, all the stuff. And I'm like, nah, we should share it with the kalo farmers. So, you know, push me out then. The military wants to leave. Like, we should support them. I was like, no, we got to keep them here because, like, it's not about safety. It's like we need, we need the money from the defense contractors. And I'm like, are you sure? I think we need the homes, the 40,000 homes that they have. So they pushed me out then. Oh, Monsanto, you got to support Monsanto. I'm like, let's not support Monsanto. They spray pesticides all over the schools. So like those kinds of issues, they're just like, nah. And those are like Native Hawaiian issues in a sense, but it's also just like common sense, environmental issues, pro-worker issues. So I think that it was the biggest thing for me. It's, you only have two choices, right? You get, if you really care, you can either join the Democrats and then get pushed out eventually. Yeah. Or you can be like Brenton and run as a Republican, but you don't get shit done for your district. Like you're not getting, if they say you need a high school, my district needed a high school, you're not getting that because you're an outsider. The third option is you just become one with the ship, like Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah. And that's what most people end up. So that's the problem with the system. And this is why we need like a fundamental redoing of the way we even constitute our political system in the first place. Because this two-party thing just doesn't work for most people, and it just divides us.
Oh, man, it's a little disheartening, you know? And I feel like a lot of people would tap out and just go the other way after feeling like they've been defeated by the reality of it being this or this. The division is such an issue.
Yeah, if you have a big five corporation, it's like, why don't you just lobby for us then? And like, we'll set you, like, you'll make a lot of money. It's like, it's hard to say no after being so jaded.
Bro, okay, so let me ask you this. As a native Hawaiian that has experienced working for the U.S. federal government, let's talk about the United States occupation and the current state of Hawaii and its indigenous people. In your opinion, What are some of the most pressing issues that plagues the Native people? And then let's also hear solutions.
Yeah, so right now, there are more Hawaiians outside of Hawaii than here. Mm-hmm. And even if you're not Hawaiian, if you're working class in Hawaii, you're barely scraping by. Mm-hmm. You probably think about moving every day. They call it Zillow porn. You know, you're looking at big houses in the Midwest, whatever. You're like, boo, I could afford that. Yeah. Just here, I can't. Yeah. That's real, I think, for everybody. And, you know, the question I get a lot is like, how can we just people get more money? And it's like, there's only really two ways to do that, right? You either print more money, which the government does with the COVID checks and stuff. But what that does is you make money actually less valuable, and then inflation catches up, and you know that doesn't work. Or you redistribute money. You look at the billionaires that got 10x more money since COVID, and none of us got 10x more money, and you're like, damn, that sucks. But of course, billionaires aren't going to just let that happen. They have more power. Even government can't even fight them on that right now. So, you know, what people really need, though, isn't more money. It's the stuff that money provides. What we really miss is the village. Like, we just want to bring the village back. Like, if we had housing and, like, common areas where we can gather, that's not just a mall that we don't have to pay for, and we had just enough food to feed everybody, and we had a value system that wasn't like, oh, I admire you because you have the biggest house and the most cars. It's like, no, I admire you because you give the most to the community. Like the song by The Green where, you know, Hawaiian man gives the fish around. Like, that's our value system. If we can get back to that, I think most people would be way happier, even if it's not like they have a bunch of money in the bank. And in fact, a lot of people get rich and they're still isolated and they hate it. So yeah, housing, you know, dignified housing, jobs that feel like it's meaningful. We need ways to actually be in community and bond at a real level, not just yelling at each other online. And a clean environment to live in, I think, and then good schools, you know, for our kids, so they end up smarter than us. That's like the dream. If we can have those 5 things, that's great. And my thing is like, we have enough. There's enough wealth in America. There's enough wealth here. Just look around. It's just like people forgot how to share.
How likely is something like that happening, where we can create some type of village system where people can thrive and barter and you know, live a more simpler life, but a more fulfilled and happy life?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the big question that defines today's politics on the economic front. Yeah, so you have like the left and the right. Yeah, which, I mean, we can get into. I think people don't really understand what that means. Well,
yeah, let's talk about the left and the right, man.
What do you think it means? What is left? What is right?
Well, I think that the left would be, you know, like your liberals and your Democrats, and the rights would be, you know, conservatives and Republicans. And that's really the extent. I know that there's some factions within that, but I'm not really well versed on it, and I don't really like to study it so much. So that's also why it was intriguing for me to have somebody like you, because I can share being a native for one, but then also your experience, and you're educated in that field. So that's kind of why you're here too.
No, I mean, I think you're right, and that's actually further along than most folks get. People think left and right means Democrat and Republican, but in reality, they're both kind of like center right in the global context. Like, you know, you go to New Zealand and their left wing party is like, workers should own the corporations they work in. Like, Democrats don't talk like that, right? Basically, like, the whole society should be one union. People don't talk like that. So the American ideas, the Western ideas of left and right doesn't apply well to Hawaii. And here's why. The right talks about tradition, and we got to preserve what we have. There's wisdom in our ancestors. You know, I will die for this land. Like, that's the right. The left is like, man, things are too hard, and we need like a fundamental shift. Like, we got to change stuff. We got to fight for the little guy and make life work better for all of us. So we got to be looking forward, progress. The conservative, look back, right? I don't want to change everything, right? I don't want everything to change. I want to preserve our culture. I want to preserve our land, our traditions. But I also don't believe that things are working well. I think we got to change a lot of stuff. And I want to look out for the little guy. I don't want to let corporations and billionaires do whatever they want. So it's like the solutions tend to lean more left. Like we want public ownership of streams. We think workers deserve more power over the corporations and the CEOs that are making 400 times more money than them. But we also want to like I testify for Iwi Kupuna. Like I literally think my blood and bone is in this land and I will die for it. And that's a right-wing frame. So what happens is Hawaiians hear this message of like nationalism and like this right-wing thing, and then they like, oh, they get drawn to that. But then in America, when they say, you know, I will die for my people, who are they talking about? Are they talking about you? No. They're talking about when he says like we want to preserve the traditions of our ancestors, but their ancestors are KKK.
Yeah.
Like, are they talking about you? But so they fall, they come in at the top of the funnel and they get deeper and deeper and deeper. And on the left, it's just like, no, we don't want to change it. So they just ignore it. But like, realistically, when you talk to most people, they're a mix of like this frame and these solutions, and they just want things to be more fair. And they feel like the majority of us are just getting cut out of the equation.
Oh my gosh. So that kind of makes things a little bit more clear, but also makes things a little bit more complex, because I feel like people attach themselves to one side or the other really just to point a finger and feel like they're right, with not really understanding what that label means.
Yeah, so when you talk about the village mentality, like some of the ways that we fall into our camps online, you would never do if you're living among those people in a community, because like you want everyone, you got to save face in one way or another, and you got to see that person in the grocery store, you know, later on. And I just want to remind folks, if that's what we want to win back, that community, then like we should just model that behavior.
And I think that ascends above parties. Okay, so you have publicly criticized some of the rhetoric of recently assassinated Charlie Kirk. I think we can both agree that no political or religious views should result in cold-blooded murder, and no one should be celebrating such a crime. And I can admit, I didn't even know who Charlie Kirk was. I'm not that guy, you know. I did, however, see that he was strong in his faith. He was a family man that also said some pretty absurd shit. No shade. Just my perspective. You know what I mean?
That's right. That's who he was. Yeah.
Crazy shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I like to remain respectful in disagreement. So like, there's some things that I heard him say that I was like, hey, I can stand on those values. However, I felt so disrespected when he talked about Native Hawaiian beliefs, about the pagan culture and the Maui fires, and how it could have been prevented if maybe we worshipped his God in his way. You saw that? You actually posted it.
Yeah, I posted it.
Yeah, and when I saw it, bro, I had this feeling of like, yo, my heart dropped.
Yeah.
You know, I really don't, like, I go to a Christian church, bro. You know what I'm saying? But like the way that he addressed the Hawaiian people was enough for me. I saw all I needed to see. You know, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I would never celebrate any assassination. And the first thing I did is like, hey, we should all condemn this political violence. And I took flack from the left on that one. And it's just like, if you're okay with that, you got to understand that every side thinks they're good. It's not like, oh, I'm the villain, right? That's it's not Disney movies. Like the people we see as villains, they see us as villains, and they're complicated people. Sometimes, like the CEO of Monsanto that I used to talk to in Maui was like the nicest guy I ever met. He was just doing some bad stuff. Like the healthcare guys that like cut the claims, they're also family men. They're like good dudes. They're just do some really bad stuff as their job. So understanding that, somebody could have made the case that like I should get killed, just like twisted my words around, you know, like, so I would never like celebrate that kind of tactic, and it just backfires. This dude he's an organizer like me, but his whole thing was going into college campuses and like debating, you know, picking fights basically. He literally had the sign that says, change my mind. That's how he started. So he had,
I respect that, by the way, debating.
Yeah, me too. I mean, he had like a few hundred chapters. Like he was very successful, and he had 8 million followers. Like, you know, built a big thing, hundreds of millions of dollars. Once he got killed, 30,000 people signed up to do new chapters. Like, even if your goal is just to like win on your side, this kind of tactic backfires. So first of all, second, like, he says some stuff like Martin Luther King was a bad guy. Like he literally said that. He says the Civil Rights Act was a mistake. He said the stuff about Kamehameha Schools. He platformed Edward Bloom. He said the stuff about the Maui fires. Just kind of absurd stuff. But like, he thought he's not like, he is also probably a good dad. Like, I don't know. You never know, So just it's just a complicated thing. But the fact that we focus so much on individuals is a problem to begin with. And like dudes are like defending him like he's Jesus.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't have to, bro. You don't even know this guy. You probably only knew about him for a couple of weeks. Like, just
when people share core beliefs, especially when it comes to faith or religion, sometimes everything else, they're blind to everything else about that person.
Yeah, and sometimes I don't even know if it's core beliefs or more like virtue signaling. Like, do you believe at your core that civil rights was a mistake? Do you believe at your core that like MLK, Martin Luther King was like bad? Like I think those reflect on your values too, But like the virtue signaling of like I'm a Christian man and all those things, it's like, okay, but there's all kinds of Christians. Like I grew up in the church, like I'm very spiritual. Like, but not everyone all the time is who we should model our kids after. There's
nothing like a white Christian man that demonizes native cultures. That really, there's something that just doesn't sit right within me when it comes to that. And it probably reminds me of colonizers.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, like, yeah, it is what it is. I'm not in the business of like trying to litigate someone's life post-mortem or like talking about them in critical ways. Yeah. Unless it's like, we're venerating this person. We're putting them on a pedestal in a way that's not even accurate to their legacy.
I understand.
Like, let's just, if we're going to be like lifting this guy up, let's just make sure that it's all of who he is and it's accurate. And like, I think he'd stand by that. Like his principles would stand by that. Everything he says, he stands by. So like, let's just make sure people hear that too, right? It's not like to tear him down or anything. It's just like the full person.
Like Abraham Lincoln.
That wasn't me.
No. We're going to touch on that. So, tell me about this. In some international news, the ethnic genocide between Israel and Palestine. How and when do you think this one's going to end, or will it never end? It's been going on for 100 years.
Yeah, what's happening in Gaza is probably one of the worst things that's ever happened in history. It's definitely the sickest thing that I've seen in my lifetime. 600,000 plus people just exterminated, and then many, many more starved, including mostly just women and children, not soldiers we're talking about. The question is, like, will it stop? Will it end? I mean, eventually you're wiping out people. There's no city left. Like, it's going to end, just not in a way I think anybody other than, Netanyahu and like really far right fascist folks in Israel would want, and neocons here. There are people in America that make a lot of money selling weapons and keeping these wars going. Like, why would Afghanistan last for 20 years and we leave and the group that we're coming after is stronger than before? Like, how is that in our interest as taxpayers, as citizens in America? And now they hate us even more.
Yeah.
It's because there's these weapon manufacturers that bribe politicians and they make a lot of money. And it's just this for-profit system that's going to continue. So if we want things like what's happening in Israel or Afghanistan or Libya or Syria or Lebanon or Iran or Iraq to stop, we actually need to take on this military and industrial complex head on. And I think that's something that has broad support across party lines. You want to talk about a unifying solution, it's that, getting that dark money out and kind of shining the light on how these defense contractors move.
Ooh, touchy subject. Well, okay, so this leads into my next one.
You asked the question.
No, you're right. No, but like that like Lockheed Martin and like all those super huge manufacturers. I've been hearing that for years. Actually, I've heard Joe Rogan speak on that too before. So I know there's truth to that.
Yeah, and like he's not necessarily a left wing guy or anything. It's just, there's certain things that's like kind of common sense that both parties, Republicans and Democrats, just ignore.
Who's above Republicans and Democrats?
What you mean above?
Who's controlling them? Because I know that they're not the ones in control.
I mean,
is it the ones that control the media?
So the Democratic Party in Hawaii is just blowing it right now. They've done so many things that just hurt the working people of Hawaii. And they're the party that's supposed to stand for workers, right? The whole point of Democrats in Hawaii was like, we're with the unions, like we're with the little guy, we're with the environment, and then they just make decisions on the other side. Why? Because the same corporations and billionaires and stuff that donate to Republicans in Vegas donate to Democrats here. So, just switch to Republicans. We could do that, but what do you think the donors are going to do? Just fund them, right? And then all of a sudden, the same stuff is happening. So, there's a fundamental problem with the political system, and especially the way money works. So every year we're fighting, to get like clean elections and like different ways where it's like public funding or more light on the process. Brenton Awalk gives a speech where he names all the people. You know how many times I wanted to do that when I was in office, but I couldn't because then I wouldn't pass any bills. You know what I mean? So like that needs to happen. We need to get rid of money in politics, but even beyond that, it's like we gotta reform the two-party system, and then the other. That's like the one reform that's gonna make everything else possible.
What do you think about
Brenton? Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's if you care and you stand with the people, like either be an outsider or an insider temporarily, and then they'll say, "Oh, you're crazy showing," and they push you out. Now, if we can change the system and build enough power at the grassroots level, then we can change that. And I got a lot of ideas of how we can do that.
Okay. So tell me this: mainstream media and its control effect on society. Why are we force-fed so much violence and conflicting misinformation?
Oh, because it's like gets the clicks. People don't tune in when if it bleeds, it leads. They say, right?
Rage bait.
Yeah.
I just feel like every time I watch media, and even on the whole recent Charlie Kirk thing, it's like one day this is being reported, the next day this is being reported, and the information is constantly changing and causing you to kind of rethink your position.
Yeah, I mean, when Charlie Kirk got assassinated, I just kept seeing the video over and over. Every algorithm was just like feeding me it. And like, does that really, I mean, on one side, it's good to have like that independent media where you can just see what's really happening. On the other end, like there's incentives there. Like you want to kind of rile up both sides. Like it's going to piss off. Everyone's going to have an opinion after seeing that video, especially if you see it 20 times in a day. And our brains just aren't really set up to absorb that kind of violence in real life, in real time, over and over and over. So it like taps into like certain hormones and chemicals in your brain that just makes us not think straight.
Desensitizes us too. We're ready for the next one.
Yeah, that's right.
And we have no really choice. I opened my Instagram, boom, I was like, holy shit.
So independent media isn't necessarily just in itself better, but I would say like mainstream media over the years, the way they treated me, the way they treated everyone from like the people in Mauna Kea to Kaho'olawe, going all the way back, it's been unfair. But when you look at the incentives, it makes a lot of sense. Like the fact that they're funded by like through their commercials and ads, the same people were fighting. It's like, how can they not really? They say there's a line between their newsroom and their ad room, but come on, it's like the same owner. Yeah. So there's a history of publications like Star Advertiser going all the way back to when they're Pacific Commercial Advertiser, that it was established just for white folks here to counter and oppose Liliuokalani. And you like fast forward generations, and it's kind of still in the same vein, who their audience is, who subscribes to it. It's not like, regular working people reading Star Advertiser these days. Like who gets a subscription? It's like the downtown elite and like people with the big houses in Kailua. So the way they talk about us and our issues tends to reflect that.
Oh, interesting perspective. So tell me this, have you faced a time in your career, I know you have actually, but have you faced a time in your career where you faced failure or intense opposition, and how has that transformed you?
Yeah, I mean,
Your whole career, huh?
yeah, pretty much every step of the way, bro. I mean, that's what my first job was, picking pineapples on a plantation. And when you do that, you realize like, and you can barely pay the bills. My mom had 4 kids. Grandma was living with us. I was 14. Like the kind of stress you get from work is probably isn't even as bad as that. Seeing what my mom had to go through after my dad died. So it's that perspective. It's like, you do this because I got lucky and was able to go to college and stuff somehow, get into KS, even though that all happened. And like most people that go through stuff I did don't get that lucky. They end up in jail or whatever. And you got to fight for them, basically, because you got a chance and they didn't. So when you have that perspective, it's like, yeah, come at me. But like, yeah.
All right. So we've made it to the Lincoln Day 2023 Eva Elementary School. Your son
Still talking about that.
got to, man. Well, it's funny because I do have a connection with the guy that ripped the sign up. One of my really good friends. So I got to hear his side of it. And I also talked to you previously, and you told me your side of it. But I just wanted to say that your son displayed ultimate courage that day, in my eyes, peacefully protesting, which I don't think we see enough of. Peaceful protest. He's peacefully protesting Abraham Lincoln based upon information that he researched himself on YouTube. And being that I'm friends with the guy that ripped up your sign, I really do understand both sides. However, I do respect your son for standing up for what he believed in, and I do think that we should celebrate our kings and queens of Hawaii more frequently and more intentionally. And I think that was the whole point of what he was doing. So I just kind of wanted you to do a quick account of your role in that whole ordeal.
Yeah, so my kid was first grade, and he wanted to protest Abraham Lincoln on Abraham Lincoln Day. I didn't really know what that meant because I never really been to one before, but I do know that he was born in 2016, and he just been around protests his whole life. So this is kind of like what he knew. And, raise your kids how you want. I'll raise my kids how I want. I think that's how society should work. But I told him, like, boo, this is the most popular politician of all time. Like, you pick your target wisely. But what I didn't realize that there's going to be like 1,000 people there. I thought it was going to be like 20 people. It's during a school day. It's like parents were working. And you get there and there's like news cameras and all the politicians are there, all the school administrators, the whole DOE brass. I'm like, okay. So I helped him write the sign. People are like, well, he didn't write that sign. Of course not. He's first grade. Like I helped him write his sign. But I go up to him and I go, hey, you don't have to do this. Like, I didn't realize it was going to be like this. He's like, no, I'm just so glad. I didn't know where you were. Like, give me the sign. And I was like, okay. And people with first graders, I have a first grader now, my younger one. He's not really like that, right?
Yeah.
He's a different kind of kid. He's really physical. But they're like, he wouldn't think it out on his own. I'm like, you got to meet this kid, right? Or listen to that news interview he did after. Because like that's how he is. So anyways, yeah, he did the thing. And it was like, at that moment, it was the kupuna thing. Like, I'm like, oh my God. He's just standing up there. He starts walking around, doing the chant, and he just stood there. And then that vice principal goes up, like, you got to leave. He goes, no. And he puts his fist up. So that, my wife starts crying. She puts her fist up. It was just like, oh my God, bro. It was so intense. But it worked. The message got out there. And I think people were like, wait, when I was a kid, there was May Day.
Yeah.
What happened? There was Makua Day, Kupuna Day. They come and visit. They teach us about the culture. And now we're just celebrating Lincoln. And this is the school that it's like 99% Hawaiians and Filipinos. The school bell is taps, like the military bugle call. That's the bell. And it was set up, if you look at the history of that school, not to produce leaders like Puno or Kamehameha. It was to produce plantation workers. Like that was the whole point. So you look at that context, it's like, nah, like we got to do better for these kids. We got to instill some confidence. You can't be telling them like, this is what a hero looks like and not let them see like themselves reflected in that and like who our heroes really are in Hawaii. Like teach them about George Helm, teach them about Little Kalani, Wilcox, like people that done amazing things for our society. Or they're Filipino, teach them about the Sakata, teach them about Rizal. Like there's just so many heroes we have, but it's just weird when you just have like, it's like that BYU mural where you just have like all the brown kids and they have like the one white guy and they're all giving them lays. It's like, I don't know, man.
Interesting.
So yeah, I think that's, even to me, it opened my eyes. I'm like, wow, I can't believe this is like, we've gone backwards since the 90s.
Wow, and that's very honorable, I feel, and I think that after you zoom out from the situation, you can really understand the sentiment behind it. And when I talked to Justin about it, he 20 something years in the U.S. military, chief fire department, federal fire department, and their whole angle was we took off of work, we just like see our kids dance. You know what I mean? Not necessarily thinking about the mana and Kuleana behind what he was doing. You know what I'm saying? It was hard in the moment.
I totally understand the frustration. Yeah. I mean, I think there was a lack of leadership. Mm-hmm. Like if I were principal or if I were one of the politicians up there, even if it was someone on the opposite side saying like, celebrate white supremacy or whatever, I'd still get up there and I'd be like, hey, everybody calm down. Mm-hmm. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
They were yelling F you at a 6-year-old.
Wow.
And nobody just stepped up to the mic and tried to calm things down. In fact, we're gaslighted, and they wrote this letter signed by the principal and the DOE saying like, thank you for remaining peaceful. And I'm like, we had to get escorted out by cops.
Yeah.
Because they're afraid it was going to, I'm like, hey, police, like, you can leave us alone, officer. Like, we're good. And he's like, no, I'm afraid for your safety. This is a mob situation. We got to get you out. And then they send a letter from the DOE saying like, thank you for remaining peaceful. Like, that's messed up.
Yeah.
So I wish, folks that could have happened. So I'm not going to blame the parents. That said, like, my kid does hula. They work really hard. This wasn't that kind of performance, right? It's like they probably practice like once or twice. And I get it's a family event and all that. So, but what are they? They're singing, they change the lyrics to pop songs. You know that song is like, I got my head out the sunroof or whatever, like that weird song. But it's like, Lincoln is my hero. It's like, boo, it's like, I love Lincoln. I'm like, boo, this is like North Korea shit. You know what I mean? Like, when you start actually hearing it, you're like, well, what? This is a politician too. Like, you're politicizing the event. We're not politicizing the event. You're making the kids worship a politician. That's partisan and complicated, but what else?
Wow. We're all brainwashed to think that that's normal.
It's not normal, right? Like if you saw it in another country, if you saw it happen in another country, you'd be like, whoa.
Some North Korea shit, like you said, bro. Wow. Okay, so I have just 2 more questions for you real quick. Who is Haunani-Kay Trask to you, and how do you honor her legacy?
Yeah, so Haunani, I think people, because I've been giving talks at the bandstand and stuff, they're like, oh, you're like Haunani. And I'm like, well, kind of. And I think later Haunani was like, hey, we got to affect change on the inside too. Culture people need to become more political. I believe that. But also like I look to Kupuna like Haunani for sure. I also look to like Vili Koki, like Robert Wilcox, who was there, did all the tactics, bro. This guy would organize a rifle club because he knew what was going to happen to the queen. And then he fought with that group of guys for a day and a half outside the palace. Among those guys, Prince Kuhio, Joseph Navahi, they all got locked up, thrown in prison, Stanford Dole. But the people revolted, so they had to pardon them. But they served the term anyways. They're like, I'm going to serve the sentence. I'm going to get out. They ran for office like Nelson Mandela style, and they all got in. So the inside and outside. And because they are so beloved by the people. And they ran through a third party, the Home Rule Party. Not Democrat, not Republican. And they won super majority of the seats in the legislature and Congress. Wow. Like right after overthrow. So of course, like the establishment's like, well, we got to figure out how to silence these guys. Like they're too popular. So there was a campaign, but like their legacy, I think, just doesn't really, that story doesn't get told. You hear about Kuhio, but like Kuhio came out of that and, left the Home Rule Party, met with Henry Baldwin, one of the big 5 guys, and then joined the Republican Party and, pushed some of the stuff over the edge through one of the mainstream parties. But like originally he had like defect from that group of like Hawaiians that was like really trying to represent Hawaii for Hawaiians and for like the people that supported the kingdom, not just racial Hawaiians. And I think that is something that, kind of drives the work I do. Like, can we rebuild that unity outside the party system and, inside, outside tactics? Obviously, I'm not calling for violence right now. I think that's a way different context where they're pointing a gun to Kaka's head with the Constitution and, they removed the queen through violence. But like, we need to be able to lay it all on the line. Like, are you willing to like live and die for Hawaii? So like, yeah, I look to anti-Haunani, but I also look up to people from way back. And I think that's the thing when you don't have like you live in a place like me, a country, and everybody just turns into their dads. You don't really have a dad to look up to. You look up to these like random guys, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm glad there is that. The problem now is like a lot of our heroes are dead, and there's not a lot of people where I can tell my boy like, you know, grow up and be like that. So I'm just trying to figure out how I could be more like that for them.
Wow. Well, you know, without people doing the type of work that you're doing, I feel like your culture, the Hawaiian culture, would disappear.
Yeah, I think there's a belief that like if we all just tend to the land and do our small part and be the change, things will work out. I don't really subscribe to that. Because let's say we all take back our little piece of land. At a certain point, the systems, like they're going to go to the legislature and be like, no, we're taking that back. So we actually have to do it collectively. And we actually have to look at how do we change the structures, the systems, and the bigger picture. And ku'e is part of our legacy just as much as everything else, as aloha, as like, you know, loving each other and getting along. There's also that side of like, no, we got to stand strong for what is right. Oia i'o, ho'omana, ho'ohui, addition, like getting people to join us. Like, that's the part of our story, I think, that doesn't get told enough. So which is why I appreciate you having me, bro.
Bro, seriously, I was looking forward to this for a long time. Last thing on a lighter note, I did see that you at the Hollywood Improv, you did like a 3-minute a 3-minute set, kind of impromptu. You saw a little advertisement. They're doing like open mic, and you went ahead and you wrote a little bit. How did that go, bro?
Man, so we're in LA for a funeral. You know, the Lola on the Filipino side, who was always at our house, passed away. She was 93. And, you know, it was really solemn. But on the week after, it's like, hey, we got to like lighten up a little bit. So went to LA on the strip. And then, the famous improv was like, oh, you can put your name in a hat. And they'll pull like, you know, 50, 60 people, all aspiring, like hardcore, you know, they want to be famous. And they just might pull your name, and then they pulled mine, and I did. You know, I'm not trying to be a comedian here. I don't even think I'm that funny. But like, yeah, it was fun, bro. Like I talked about like the differences between, you know, similarities between LA and Hawaii. Yeah, how, you know, they surf, we surf. They have the drop trucks. We got the lifted Tacomas. They have. What was even? Man, I had a punchline there. See, I'm not that funny.
No, but I mean, the courage that it took to stand up there and do something out of your comfort zone is pretty admirable.
No, what was it? Oh yeah, we're homeless on the streets. They got our homes. That shit right there was like, you know, you
got a reaction for that.
I got a reaction for that because it's like the discomfort you make them feel an element of surprise at, and it's like, whoa, what? And I'm like, yeah, and everyone starts clapping. I'm like, yeah, bruv, yeah, give it up for decolonization, you frickles. Yeah, so that was like the whole vibe, and I had like 3 minutes of that kind of shit. Yeah,
sick.
Yeah, it was fun, bro.
Well, bucket list checked off the list.
Yeah, exactly.
Kenji, what you got, bro?
Kaniela, thank you for coming, bro. So great to meet you. As someone who's like super into video, as maybe you can tell, like it's my whole thing. So oftentimes I think of questions that are surrounded around video and storytelling and narrative, which I think a lot of what you do as politician, activist, that matters, right? Creating stories, but also consuming stories. I'm sure you're selective with what you consume and you have your own filter built in and all that. But listening to you and Ty, I was like, I want to ask you a question about this village. I don't know if you call it the village or it's just a working title for you when you talk about it. It's a vision, maybe a utopian one. It seems like a solution of sorts that you've formulated. Can you tell me about this village a little bit more? Like, is it just a placeholder for an idea that's part of a larger plan, or have you actually started? You got blueprints, mock-ups, and all of that.
That's an interesting question. So I'm in North Carolina, right? I'm helping them with this thing where Yeah. So I'm in North Carolina. I'm talking to the bartenders, the Uber drivers, whatever. And these are people that are like hardcore voted for Trump, right leaning, red, all the stuff. I'm not that. But we was talking about like they was making fun of people who catch freshwater fish and they think it's gross. They're like, well, you gotta get you gotta go fishing in the ocean. They was talking about like growing up, jumping off of rocks and like the different kinds of flips they was doing. I was like, boo, that's exactly how I grew up. I'm from Hawaii, here in North Carolina, 4,700 miles away. Completely different culture, different shorelines, but I'm listening to you all and it sounds like home. In Hawaii, there's jet fuel that poisoned our aquifer. In North Carolina, there's coal ash in your rivers. Your creeks hold the same toxins that bleached our coral reefs. Asbestos in Bingham Park, lead in the sands of White Plains Beach where my toddlers swim. Does that sound familiar? You know, and like we had so much in common, but then they started talking about how like the streams got polluted by like certain like chemical companies, the corporations. I'm like, bruh, like this is my life.
Same. And
it's that far away. So then when I gave that speech in North Carolina, it was like, how can we find common ground? And I think whether you're lonely in a city in New York and you're isolated and you're like, damn, there's a million people around me, but I still feel so alone, or you're in a small town and it just doesn't feel like it used to. I think everyone just kind of longs for that village. Or you're a native person and you're like, boo, like I want to live how my ancestors lived. And so it's to me, it's more of just that mentality. And the fact is like these corporations, they privatized everything the village provided. It put us on their dole and they made us buy it back. Right? So like the aunties that watch your kids, now you got to pay $3,000 for daycare. Just the common spaces that people used to gather and talk story while their kids play after work. Now you got to like, I don't know, go shopping at the mall or something if you want to see that. It's the only time we see people we know. Just like the kitchens, you know, who's cooking for everybody. And like you go to Five Guys, it costs $60, $70 now for the family. And it's like people just know that's not sustainable. And it just like, we're just longing to be connected in a real way. So when I talk about the village, I'm talking more like that. Now, is it actually a thing that we can build? Yeah, I think there's some conversations like, you know, I've been helping a lot with the Lahaina fire recovery. And they're talking about can we like build a community in a more intentional way that brings people together rather than like isolate us into our little nuclear homes, you know?
I mean, I think partly that's by design, kind of like the school conversation we had earlier, right? School was designed for a very specific thing, making workers, not necessarily critical thinkers. It's almost like a factory of sorts if we go down that slippery slope, right? Who's coming out of schools? Workers. But you could say, basically what I'm thinking is like the word village has this almost nuance to it of like backwards. But I think you're talking about a forward-thinking village that we got to release sort of like village, like old technology. Like, no. In my head, when I heard you say that, I was thinking of all the ways we're putting technology into a village, but the values are the ones from before.
That's right.
The values are the
that's
ones.
right.
But we doing podcasts.
Which
we doing
there's
media,
an element of left, like I talked before, there's an element of right. But at the end of the day, it's just like take the best of what worked in the past and then evolve to like what we need to do in the future. Yeah.
Okay, so that leads me to really, I was like, bro, I got to ask you this one. Because speaking about sort of the bridge, like if the present is the bridge between the past and the future, and we're here in Hawaii, right? We're all born and raised in Hawaii. I am a licensed real estate agent. Most people don't know that because my work is more of a referral agent role, part of Core Team Hawaii. And we're a small team, but we do a lot of business. And it's through media, through our YouTube channel. That's where I'm coming to play, right? But through my sort of introduction 5 years ago into real estate, Hawaii real estate, local boy, right? Not an owner, been renting my mom owns her house, but she bought it for $2 50 years ago type thing, right? Now I'm getting into it. Now I'm in these conversations. Now I'm getting way more exposure to this rather new, relatively speaking, if we're talking about the history of this place, this relatively new introduction of ideas, namely ownership, because we come from a place where we talked about stewardship. It was stewardship where homes were sort of ancestry. Now we're talking about ownership where homes are assets. and it's a conflict. And I see a lot of agents, especially local agents, born and raised, or local agents, who struggle with this sort of, you feel like you're betraying
bro.
in a way.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know that the vehicle of real estate for wealth building in your own family is working.
Yeah.
I can say that for myself, and everyone on our team experiences this sort of upward mobility through the vehicle of
100%.
real estate.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you recognize the beast that is real estate, the beast that is this foreign idea of ownership and assets. And we're participating, facilitating these transactions. And then we're uplifting ourselves, our team. And so there's this cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
What do you say to people like that, those local real estate agents who experience this kind of...
Well, I have a lot of grace. Like, people expect, I think because people are like, oh, you know, Kaniela's left, Brenton's right, or whatever. It's like, you're going to cancel people. First of all, I don't support cancel culture. In fact, I think it's wrong when it was on the left, the way that it went about. I mean, people should be accountable. You know, people, you can be judged by the masses, but to coordinate those kinds of attacks, I think is pretty heavy. And then it's happening on the right now, if you notice. And it's bad on either side. So for me, my whole thing is like, you blame the systems, not the people. No one lives in a pure space. I don't. Even if I'm working for a nonprofit, I'm taking money for foundations where the person that funds the foundation made their money off of something corporate anyways, you know? And so it's like, we're all just trying to like make it and make sense of what we're doing, and nothing pure. No, some jobs are obviously worse than others. But, you know, I gave a speech recently where I was like, it's the jobs to make it are the ones that like pull our EV out of the ground, you know? And it's like, that's the lyric to one of my songs, like the only jobs to make it in this town are the ones that pour ancestors out of the ground. And like, that's not your fault, right? That's not the construction workers' fault. That's generally politicians and then the macroeconomic factors that lend itself to that. But I think the good news about what you're talking about is, if you listen to investors now and futurists and people on that side of things, the finance world, they're saying that this home ownership thing isn't sustainable anyways. It's just not. And they're actually advising people to rent.
Really?
So the incentives are naturally kind of shifting back. That said, like, I don't take home ownership for granted. I would like to own a home one day. I'm not gonna lie. You know, like, it does seem like you, especially in Hawaii, like, you have a piece and you're okay. In fact, like, I have a Portuguese side in my bloodline. Like, I have, we have Hawaiians, we have Japanese, all this stuff, but like, I have a Portuguese side, and they got to be the Lunas because they was the lighter skinned ones and all the stuff. And my grandma, who's 90 now, she has land in Pukalani. Like, even though she was working class and it was like $30,000 then, it's probably worth like a couple million now. Yeah. And just knowing that that's in my family is a sense of security, because my mom doesn't even have a house that we grew up in. She's living in senior housing. But the fact that that still exists, it's like, we might be okay, you know? So I'm not, like, I can't sit here on a high pedestal and be like, hey, don't do real estate. In fact, like, most of these realtors that you see around town, soldier to soldier realty, what does that mean? Boo, that means that some guy's coming in 0% down, $4,000 a month through socialism from the government, coming in and then leaving after 3 years, taking up all this housing supply, jacking up the price because it's publicly funded, and then selling it to another soldier. It never even goes to a local. That's what's happening. So the fact that there are local realtors and focus on like getting locals into houses, I mean, at least it like fights that, fights those forces. So really nuanced view, but it's a bigger system.
Believe me, I see, like, myself, I think about it. I see other agents think about it, and it's one of those like elephants in the room.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one huge, like, on humpback whale in the room, because it's like you can't not think about it. And so I was just wondering how you sort of balance that in your head.
How about you? When you like, even when he was renting, trying to find a place to rent back in like peak post-pandemic when the interest rates were super low, but our income was pretty good at the time, and like,
he was ready for pull the sugar.
It was hard, but we couldn't get down payment. Yeah. And then you go in and there's like 80 people bidding.
I was gonna say, competition
But
was
even to get a rental, bruh. There's 50 people from the military. And if I was a landlord, and it's like, okay, do I trust this local kid and his his family, or can I just get a straight check from the government every month through socialized military?
They're the system again, right? The largest system that sort of puts us again, like upstream. It's the upstream battle, because I think it started with just straight up information. Like, not too many people, like financial advising, for example. If you watch YouTube, what everyone says, financial disclaimer, right? Because they don't want to be held liable for something they said on YouTube.
Yeah.
And so it's like, but that's the information that we need, though.
Whenever you hear this is not investing advice, it's investing advice.
But like, why do we have to jump to that hoop in the first place?
Yeah.
Who put the hoop there? Who's benefiting from having hoops, slowing us down, slowing our progression in learning just how to get a loan? Because you don't really need 20% sometimes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of creative ways, which credit to our team, they do. And again, I'm not the working agent. I'm the video guy, the YouTube guy. So I see them do the work, the contract work, the calls. I'm like listening sometimes, and I'm like, oh, it is personal to each person's situation, timeline, incentives, and plans and strategies and all of that. It's a complicated thing that when it is done right, I'm like, oh, that almost feels like when you go into a doctor or something, and they diagnose you and they figure out a plan for you to get to your goal or whatever it is situation you're in. But it's not a blanket statement, number one. And number two, a lot of it is just educational. Just knowing where you are, what options you have that you might not have seen, seeing other people and what options they played. And it's kind of like sports at this point. It's a game, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I see the play you ran over there. I'm not as fast as you, or I don't have this much, so I'm going to do this. So it starts to feel like a game. And when you think about a game, it's like, bro, there's rules, but it's the people who break it or flirt with the rules and regulations that make it interesting.
You see that one rugby play where he like is stepping out of bounds and he tosses the ball and kicks it. And he runs out of bounds and grabs the ball. Like, oh,
that's what people doing in real estate, though.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I love how this environment, even though the system might be sort of this current that we got to fight against, it creates the strong swimmers. It creates the creative plays and those kind of rugby moments where you're like, hey, that was smooth. But again, it's like, I think people get discouraged because they just simply don't know. The system kind of makes it hard. You got to jump through so many loops to get the information. And it's one of those kind of situations that's so complex and nuanced that it kind of deserves its own thing. So not to trash. I feel like I gotta say this. So like, not to trash on the whole industry, but there are models. If you look at Vienna or Singapore on housing, that is more like how we used to live. You talk about steward and not ownership. Like in Singapore, you can give 1/3 of your income for like the first few working years of your life, and then by the time you're 26, they have a 3-bedroom brand new unit for you already that you own, and then you can sell and flip later on. In Vienna, it's more public, where it's just like, think of public housing, but that's good enough for everyone. Rich people, poor people, and everybody wants to live in that because they invest so much in it. They don't neglect it. When it's just poor people, people don't really pay attention because they don't vote, they don't have power. But when it's for everyone, like people really, so even rich people want to live there. And, you know, it's like, if nobody owns a home, are you really going to feel the pressure to own a home? Because it's like a social thing too, yeah? So when I look at what that means in Hawaii, is we could move towards those kinds of things, but the incentives aren't there. Like there's whole industries built around it. But like in my neighborhood, we're like the only one not from the military that's there. And I don't blame our neighbors. Like the incentives are there. They're not going to not take it. Right.
But if they can give $4,000 a month, 0% down for people to own homes for a few years and then flip it, like what about the locals? You know, they even people were laughing at the guy running for mayor, Mandani, because he's talking about public grocery stores.
Yeah.
But like we have that in Hawaii with Navy Exchange and all that, right? And it's like, you look at how much money out there, people becoming trillionaires, and the money, we spent $10 trillion on war since 9/11. And like, we could do that for a lot more people. We already showed that the government can do it. I don't be like, oh, the government's ineffective. Like, it does it for these guys. So like, what about the locals? Like, we're going to have America here. Like, you know.
I always say, like, bro, that recruiter, if you're listening, I think he was Navy. I forgot what branch. But, you know, Campbell High School, there was recruiters.
I had my paperwork done 5 times, bro. And I was like this close. I'm like, just trying to figure out my boot camp schedule. Like,
bro, I was like, but he was leading with the katsu lunch and all that. Oh, you go talk development, be a man. I was like, bro, lead with the zero down.
Exactly,
lead with the zero down. You can be a homeowner.
Yeah.
You ever heard of a zero down loan? Like, I never heard that until I'm an adult searching. I'm renting. I'm at third place, and I'm thinking, what I gotta do? Because now I get one kid, second one on the way. So like, there's that information part. But I wanted to talk about Japan real quick. Because your shirt reminded me of Japan for some reason. I was like, bro, you know the overlap. So I kind of like end on a lighter note about Hawaii and Japan and the overlap. It's a place that's very special to me. With me and Taisei have Japanese ancestry. But I just met this guy, shout out to Yas, who from Japan, but he's doing business in Hawaii. And we had an extended conversation about, he was talking about how Hawaii before the European influence was like Japan. And it's not just like, okay, you know, you could say the history of aloha print shirts kind of have overlap with kimono and all that. But like he was saying culturally, and the biggest one was the collective thinking, the team thinking, the together thinking, which was sort of diluted by Western influence. Me, again, ownership, me, mine, not stewardship, ours, right? Receive and pass. It was that thinking before. And so he's like, bro, Japanese and Hawaiians, like we was brothers basically. The team thinking was so strong. And he's like, I want to bring it back to Hawaii. And so that concept has just been like in my head since I talked to him. Maybe it's like a year ago. What do you think is like the biggest overlap with Hawaii and Japan? And why is that connection so strong? I mean, we're a result of it. You could go to immigration days. You could
I'm Japanese. I'm part Japanese. My grandpa was like 442nd, you know, that generation, Saito. But yeah, I think there's that collectivist teaching. That when I talk about bringing back the village, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like that idea that we all went together, and when we're only looking out for ourselves, there's something called, philosophers will call it a tragedy of the commons, right? Like, okay, what happens to the lake then? You know, what happens to like the things that we all share? We can be better off as individuals, but ultimately we all lose as individuals because the economy collapses and a lot of things. So, I think that's a core of it. I think Japan is interesting because it gets put on a pedestal in a lot of ways, but it also has like a really dark history.
Oh, you talking about war? Or you talking
I'm talking about war. I'm talking about Korea, China, because I'm also Chinese. The Philippines, what they did to the Philippines, I think is like, but it's also like they're trying to, that was Japan, Imperial Japan trying to show the colonial world that they can play with them and they can be one of the big dogs. And it turned out to be really violent and really horrible, but that was also a Western influence on them. So I think, you know, but that needs to be said because every time I say anything like super positive about Japan, you have like the Filipinos that be like, whoa, calm down.
We know about the comfort women.
I mean, I talk about the Lola, and my Lola would like, she would go foraging for stuff during the wartime and pick up like fingers off the ground. Like her uncle got caught as a prisoner for like, you know, so it's like kind of raw. But it's also Western influence, you know. And then lastly, back to the thing about home ownership. Like it's isolation in the sense, especially when it turned into suburbs, where it's like you have your house, everybody go out, water the lawn, same time, come in, say hi, but not really know each other. And then the only place you have community is where? Church, right? Once a week. So not saying that's like necessarily bad, but a lot of people like exploit that, and the people that try to, depending on your doctrine, the people that like they use that sort of power. It's like this is a sense of community. So like, and you see some kind of weird results of that with, you know, certain types of institutions that are popping up, where it's not like the doctrine that I grew up with, for example, but it's like they understand that this is the only place people have communities, and people really fall into these really dark hole and deeper, more radical beliefs through that. Yeah.
Well, I think at the end of the day, we humans seek connection with other humans. There's people who will take advantage of that. There's opportunistic people out there who will never let a crisis go to waste, that feed on that sort of need to connect with people. So we see the branches of that and manifestation of that in a lot of ways: housing, politics, podcasting, whatever. So I just want to say, man, there's never really a right time or a wrong time, but at least it's always brotherly time. Ooh, bars. Nah, thank you, bro. Thank you. I thought I was gonna try that one.
KanielaIng.com, at Kaniela Ing, all platforms. Yeah, if you care about uniting the working class across party lines and geographies and all that, like that's the mission here.
Mahalo.
Fair enough.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching this interview. If anything in this video made you feel something, please share this video with someone you think would feel the same way. This channel is a product of two brothers born and raised in Hawaii, using our skills, our story, and our growing network to unleash our creativity. For us, being creative isn't optional. It's a duty. We've got some incredible interviews and creative projects coming up, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Thank you so much for your support. It means the world to us. Hope to see you in the next one.